This is gonna be what if Deku became the War Devil. If you don't know what the War Devil is, I will put a summary down below in the description. To start this off, everything up to the junior high school era will be the exact same. And it will start out just like the first episode. Deku, stop by to see, the heroes fighting the villain. Mountain Lady is there, Kamiya Woods is there. And then he goes off to his class. And Deku arrives in the classroom, putting his head down on his desk. The teacher's speaking up, telling the class it's the third year of your junior high school. You guys gotta think about your future. But we all know you guys want to be heroes. Then Baki was standing and was like, I'm gonna be the only one that's gonna be going to UA, becoming the number one hero, beating All Might. And then the teacher will say, oh yeah, Midori, you wanna go to UA, right? Suddenly the class freezes. Bakio turns to him with anger in his eyes. The whole class will start laughing, and then Bakio explode his desk like cannon, threatening him, don't go to UA, blah blah blah. Time skipping to after class, towards the end of the day, that Bakio will make threats to Deku to not join UA at all. And Baki will say, hey, just jump off the roof, man. You have no quirk. You have no reason to live. Just jump off the roof. So let's say Deku was, standing right in front of a open window, and he would turn to look at Baki with anger. But Baki would immediately throw an explosion against his body. But he would stumble back, like out the window, and falling down, face first, into the ground, killing him. And Baki and his friends in an empty classroom were standing still, freezing. Did that just happen? And his friends will immediately run out the room, like scared out of their mind that they just Bakio just killed a kid. Like he just killed his classmate. And Bakio will be standing still, looking at the open window, afraid to walk up and look down the window to see if Deku's okay. He is frozen in shock. He is absolutely scared out of his mind. Like he didn't like Deku, but he didn't want to hurt him. He didn't want to kill him, actually kill him. From the outside towards Deku's body, an owl will be sitting nearby, perching up on let's say a post or something. But Deku isn't dead yet. He is laying on the ground, a puddle of blood forming around his head. His face is mangled after falling headfirst into the ground. Deku is barely alive. And the owl nearby would actually fly down next to Deku's body, starting to speak to him, saying, if you want to live, you will make this contract with me. If you give up your body, you can live. But in return, I want to control your body when it's needed. You can still use my powers, what you people call quirks. If you agree to this, I'll let you live and keep all your personality, but I will take control sometimes. So you can keep living. I'll keep you alive. And you can, live out your dreams. But no matter what, I'm always going to be there, and you can use my power. But I can take control if you agree to this. And Deku lay on the ground would just mumble a slight, do it. Suddenly a nearby door would swing open. Bakio's friends would run out trying to find Deku's body and calling the ambulance. But all they see is a puddle of blood. They don't see Deku anywhere. A few hours later, suddenly Deku would wake up in his own bed with a head-splitting headache. Last thing he remembers is him falling out the window, and then suddenly everything would go black. Then he just woke up in his bed. Deku's very confused until he sees himself in a corner of his room, but with scars on his face. And his eyes are red. And Deku would kind of just jump up. He is terrified. Why does he see himself, but different? And Deku would start to think this is a nightmare or something. No way just a clone of himself. But the person that looks like Deku would actually speak. This is no dream. This is reality. Now Deku is really scared. He just read his mind. Now this imposter will start to speak to Deku. Hurry up and accept it. Now eat and go to school. If you disobey, I'll kill you. But now Deku actually start to be afraid. And will actually try to smack the clone or whatever this is, but his hand will go straight through it. You can't touch me. I'm in your mind as a hallucination. I guess I'm your quirk now. I am the War Devil, and I claimed your body. Next scene, Deku would be walking towards his school with the imposter next to him, whoever this War Devil is. The War Devil will be explaining why it's chosen Deku, how it was already weak. The War Devil does not explain the full details, because in this universe it's a little bit different. Let's say all devils was erased a while ago in the first generations of quirks. and it's like super weak at its current like state. So all of his like powers, he gave to Deku, not gave, but like let him use it. But now currently it is like super weak. Then the War Devil would explain how it's unfamiliar with human society, and based on its power, more of a connection they have with the thing they own, the stronger the weapon can be. And Deku would actually be quite interested on that type of power. And Deku would respond with an okay, I understand it now. Then stopping at the front of the school, turning to this War Devil and saying, I don't think it's a good idea for you to be here. But the War Devil would just turn to Deku and say, I'm invisible to everyone here. You can only see me. And besides, you need to get a weapon right now. You need to get stronger, ASAP. Suddenly, the War Devil would take over Deku's body, turning to a girl. And Deku, like outside of his own body, he's invisible to everyone, would start to freak out. But the War Devil inside Deku's body would actually ask out the girl, just point blank. And the girl would be like looking at Deku with the scars on his face, because the scars have now appeared on his face when the War Devil is taking over Deku's body, and would think that Deku is a delinquent and would just run away. Deku would be like yelling at the War Devil, but like, why would you do that for? You know how embarrassing that is? I never did that in my life. Why would you do that? And then the War Devil would swap bodies, letting Deku control it. After a few minutes, Deku would start to talk in his mind, because the whole time he was like kind of yelling out loud, and everyone around him would think he's crazy. So during this conversation, Deku would actually say, should I call you something else besides like the War Devil? Because I feel like that's like too long of a name and too aggressive. And the War Devil will respond with just the name Raru, or Raru, however you pronounce it.
Yoru,
which means night in Japanese. Let's say it all together.
Yoru,
Switching scenes again towards the classroom. Deku would enter in, and all of Bakugo's body, including Bakugo, would turn to him and freeze. All their skin turned pale, like they seen a ghost. Then Deku would just sit in his normal desk like nothing happened, and Bakugo and Bakugo's friends would be terrified. How is he alive? Right? Did he survive? Like, what happened? So that's where we're gonna leave off that part of the story, towards the entrance exam. I know I'm skipping a lot, but during that time, Deku will be turning everything into weapons. And when I mean everything. All my action figures, his like hero collectibles, like everything, posters, signed autographs that is valued to him. But also, Roru would be manipulating Deku into thinking that the War Devil is its quirk, and not actually like a separate person. Now, Deku does train, but not as much as he did in original, so he's still like a little bit skinny. But to the day of the entrance exam, Deku would still get nervous and be zoned out because he'd be talking to Rauru. And he would trip but get saved by Uraraka, just like the original timeline. Then Rauru would be like, turn her into a weapon now. But Deku would like, still no. He's still afraid to turn a person to a weapon. Also, it's not like he owned her now. Then Deku would go to the written portion of the exam, passes it. Then President Mike would explain the physical portion with the robots. And he still talks up. And Rauru is like, oh my god, can this guy shut up? And Deku would be like actually agreeing with Rauru with this one. This guy's speaking too much. He sounds like an a-hole. Like, come on, man. Skipping over towards the outside of the gate, like towards the city area, Deku and Rauru will be discussing to each other of the game plan of this. Because this is the physical aspect. And Deku would like talk to Rauru and say, you should take over in this aspect, because Deku is scared out of his mind. Like, he is like his anxiety is up through the roof right now. Rauru would actually decline that because Deku's like arsenal is kind of stronger because he has that emotional attachment to All Might. But Rauru would speak out to Deku saying that same girl from the beginning towards the front gates of UA is over there, and I can feel her nervousness from here. So Deku would walk up to Uraraka, trying to comfort her. And Uraraka would be thankful, but Ida would step in, of course, saying, don't bother her. Then Deku would just back off. Then President Mike will get on the announcement and say, Ring Heroes doesn't wait for a timer, go, go, go. And once President Mike said begin, Deku would start to sprint through the crowd, pushing them aside. And once Deku seen his first robot, he would actually use an attack called All Might Bobblehead Bullets. And a head of a bobblehead of All Might would fire off out of Deku's finger and piercing right through the robot's body. destroying it. And Rauru would actually start to cheer from behind Deku and would say, "Turn that robot into your weapon now." And that what Deku would do. He would turn that robot into a weapon. Let's say robot three-pointer spear. Then the three-pointer robot would actually start to transform into a giant metal spear, starting to attack the other robots that's nearby, like the one-pointer or two-pointers, stabbing it with the spear, slashing it apart, and turning them robots into a new weapons for Deku to use. So let's say he does that for like a few more robots up until he gets like at least like 30 points in total between three-pointers, two-pointers, and one-pointers. And the observers will be impressed of Deku's performance. He is using the robots as his own weapons and using it to destroy other robots. The Nezu will press a big giant red button, summoning a giant zero-pointer, and the rumble will be felt across the area where Deku is. Deku, upon seeing the zero-pointer in the distance, Rauru would be hyping him up and say, "Destroy that robot right now and own that thing." But Deku would be freaking out until he heard a cry of help in the distance, and Yoru would be telling Deku to ignore that and destroy that robot now. And Deku, out of instincts, will sprint straight at the zero-pointer, using a poster of All Might as a giant blade, throwing it full force into the zero-pointer's tracks, immobilizing the zero-pointer entirely. And Deku would run up and pull the debris off of Uraka and get her out of there, immobilizing the zero-pointer entirely. And Deku would run up and pull the debris off of Uraka and get her out of there. And the observers would be very impressed of what Deku just did. He rescued someone. After they would get to safety, Deku would actually ask Uraka if she's okay, if she needs any medical attention or anything like that. And Uraka would say, "I think I sprained my ankle, but I think I'm gonna be okay, blah blah blah." And Deku would actually carry Uraka back towards the gates to get her first aid. After getting her medical attention, the exam would be over, and Deku would get 30 villain points, 60 rescue points, and a total of 90 points, making him number one in the exam. And Deku would be the number one in the exam. He passes with flying colors. And everything will happen just like canon. Deku and his mom will cry once the Deku gets accepted. And during the time between the entrance exam and the first day UA, Deku would teach Yoru the society to the first day of UA. And at this point of the story, Deku and Yoru would be like kind of friendly, but not friends on a level. They're like friendly. Like Deku is being bearable to Yoru. To the first day of UA, Deku would wake up early, go to UA, open the door, sees Ida and Bakio arguing. And Yoru and Deku would have the exact same thought. Why am I stuck with these two? During Deku's time with Yoru, he would actually trauma dump on him about his childhood and how Bakio treated him. So Yoru knows what type of person Bakio is. And in Yoru's thought, he wants Deku to transform Bakio into a weapon. It's perfect. But Uraraka would walk up to Deku, thanking him, but Bakio would push her aside and start yelling at Deku. Bakio yelling at Deku, telling him, "How did he pass? He's quirkless." Uraraka would speak up and say, "Quirkless? No, he's really strong. He's knocking out robots left and right during the exam." And Bakio would be dumbfounded. Before he could say anything else, Ozawa will wake up and tell everyone to stop talking. Get changed and go outside to the field because we're doing a test. While in the locker room, everyone that was there witnessing Deku's power in destroying the robots will be glazing him, especially Ida. And Ida will be talking to Deku, saying, "How do you know their rescue points? They never told us that." And Deku will look at him and say, "We're training to be heroes, and you guys aren't acting like heroes. Like what?" And Ida, realizing his point, would just say, "Good point. You're right." Switching scenes to the field, because I will explain what they're going to do. The physical exam apprehension test. There we go. I want everyone to use their quirks to measure where you at right now. Stepping up to the plate, Deku will walk up after Zawa would call up his name. Throw this ball with your quirk. Deku grabbing the ball from Zawa's hand will look at Zawa and say, "Do I own this ball?" And Zawa would say, "I guess. You don't own it, but you can use it." And Deku would correct him and say, "I do own it, right?" And Izawa would just awkwardly say, "Yeah, I guess you do." Deku would get into a baseball pitcher's position, saying, "Ball bullets." And he would throw it with the ball transforming into like a bullet and would blast off, getting 400 meters. And everyone would be like shocked and excited, saying, "Oh, it's going to be fun," before Aizawa will cut them off and say, "This isn't fun. I'm supposed to be training you guys for the real world. People's lives are at stake. And you think this is fun? No. This is training." After Aizawa's lecture, the class will continue doing the test, and Deku will get like an average amount. Everyone's still getting the same, but Deku is like in like the top 10, I would say number 8, but his quirk would not be useful at all. This time, Bakugo doesn't get up in Deku's face because he didn't get better than Bakugo. Because let's be honest, Bakugo did better than Deku, and Deku is still an average human. Even though he's a pretty powerful abilities, it wasn't really useful here. And with that, Mineta would be expelled, but quickly brought back because it's Aizawa's test thing. Then the test would be over, end of the school day. In the locker room, Bakugo would actually try to confront Deku about his hidden quirk, but Deku would not tell him anything, because Rauru would still threaten Deku to not tell him a single soul about him. And so Deku would be like, "Yeah, I don't have a quirk, I'm so quirkless, kind of." Bakugo would be like, "What kind of? What do you mean by kind of?" Deku just walks away. Deku leaving UA would actually bump into Ida and Araka, and the two would hit her off, or should I say the three, the group, and they would quickly become friends with each other. And Deku is like less nervous. Actually, no, he's like more nervous because Yoru was like behind him, like whispering in his ear, telling him, "Hey, this is a perfect time to turn them into weapons. Get them, to be your best friends." So Deku's face was still turned red after introducing himself to Uraraka. So they will hang out after school. Let's say they went to like an arcade after Ida saying, "No, we shouldn't go there. We should study." With Uraraka and Deku hitting Ida with the meanest side eye. To the next day, after a long day of classes, All Might will burst in the room, saying, "I am here, going through the door like a normal person." Like the original, everyone's hyped up. Even Deku's more hyped because he isn't the successor of All Might in this timeline, so he is even more hyped up. And All Might will press a button, revealing their costumes, saying, "Get ready, guys, because we're going training." And we're going to change scenes to the locker room where Deku is getting ready, putting on his costume, but Yaru will be frying him.
Dancing frog looking ass, boy. And you out here with them roses are red, violets are blue. My booty stink. How about you, fat pants ass, boy? And your ass got alligator tail on them bitches, boy. Them bitches got designated snake skin on them bitches.
So Deku, holding back his tears, will walk out to grounds beta. After the wheel, we got Suro, and Deku versus Baki and Kirishima. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. And once everyone arrived, All Might would announce teams and they would do heroes versus villains. Kirishima, besides Bakio, would be hyped. He'd be like, "Yo, this is so manly. It's gonna be a fun match." Saro with Deku will actually be hyped because he is the number one in class now, or at least in the entrance exam. And All Might will interrupt the two, saying to get ready because we're going to start in a few minutes. While Deku and Suro would be waiting outside the building, they would start to make a plan. And with this plan, Deku would tell Suro that Bakio would be chasing after him because me and him has a grudge. They've been rivals since junior high school, even before that, childhood. And the two would decide to stick together throughout the whole thing, capture them one by one, and using Suro's quirk to capture them. Meanwhile, in the bomb room, Kirishima would actually, make a plan saying his quirk is hardening, so he's going to be playing on defense, and Bakugo would actually ignore all that and say, "I'm going to be capturing the two by myself. I am going to defeat them and show them who's number one in class." But Kirishima would actually change his mind and say, "How about let's both of us take them on?" And Bakugo would just smile and said, "Fine, but I'm taking Deku on." All Might will announce that the timer has gone up and start now. Immediately, Suro and Deku will run into the building, searching each floor for the bomb. Let's say at floor 3, they would keep hearing a tremble and a loud explosion echoing out through the hallways. And Suro and Deku knows it's Bakugo. Turning the corner, Bakugo will yell out, "Face me, you nerds!" Deku would immediately summon his one-pointer blade he got from the entrance exam. Bakugo throwing a right hook, exploding right towards Deku, but Deku would try to block it with the blade he summoned, but it would immediately shatter, and the explosion would hit his head, sending him to the ground. Zoro, standing right behind Deku, would actually fire off his tape, wrapping it around Bakugo's neck and arm. But Bakugo will counter with a left hook, following with the explosion, and gets tape, burning the tape away from his body. From the ground, Deku would slowly sit back up, quickly running at Bakugo and uppercutting him. And remember, Deku is a fiend host of the War Devil, so Deku still has the superhuman capabilities of a devil. So this uppercut has power of a superhuman strength behind it, but actually knock Bakugo out, landing on his back. And Kirishima will run in, hardening his left fist and punch Deku straight in his face, knocking him against the wall. Start off from a distance with fire off tape wrapping around Kirishima's body, but Kirishima would harden his body and tear out the tape. Deku's body will stand up, but Yoru will be in possession of it. Summoning a two-pointer blade, using the sides of the blade to smack Kirishima in his side against the wall. Bakugo will jolt awake, waking up quickly, standing up, furious that he just got knocked out for a few seconds. Yoru would actually switch back to Deku, and Suro would stare at Bakugo with him blasting off towards them through the hallways, and the two would start sprinting in the opposite direction away from Bakugo. Deku would grab onto his capture tape that was given to him by All Might because he handed out capture tape for the matches, transforming it into a weapon, saying, "Capture Whip." Deku, stopping in place, turning around toward Bakugo's direction, will whip the weapon at him, wrapping it around Bakugo's neck, slamming him into the ground. But Bakugo will use an explosion against the floor to boost him back into the air and fire off back towards Deku, slamming his own body against Deku. With the two crashing to the ground, Suro will look back, but Deku will yell out, "Charge for the bomb! Give us the win!" And that's what Suro would do. He would listen to Deku and would run to find another way towards the bomb room. Bakugo standing up, grabbing Deku's head, yelling at him, "Use your quirk on me, Deku!" Deku, still laying on the ground but his head being forced up by Bakugo, would summon an All Might action figure blade, using that blade to cut into Bakugo's ankle. And Deku would stand up over Bakugo, holding the small little action figure blade. Bakugo would stare up at Deku with pure rage in his eyes, using his explosion to propel himself backwards away from Deku, then using it again to blast himself into the air, and blast it again back towards Deku at full speed, creating an explosion right in front of Deku to use it as a distraction, propelling himself over Deku and blasting him into his backs, making Deku stumble forward. Yoru, in Deku's mind, would have to yell at Deku to say, "You need to kill him and turn him into a weapon ASAP. He is going to kill you first before you can." But Deku would flat out refuse. Kirishima will yell at Bakugo to go after Shiro because he's going after the bomb right now and he's faster. But Bakugo would instead lift up his gauntlet, telling Kirishima to go after him instead because he really wants to beat Deku right now, and revealing that his gauntlet isn't for show, but it is building up nitroglycerins to release all at once. Kirishima and All Might will yell over towards Bakugo to don't do it. You might actually kill him. But Deku will put up his arms and say go for it. Pulling the pin, and Kirishima will harden up his body, and Deku will get ready to block it, and the explosion will erupt throughout the hallway, covering Deku's entire body. Bakugo would actually have a smirk on his face up until the smoke cleared up, and that smirk would disappear with fear. Deku's entire torso would be burned to third-degree burns all over his torso, realizing that he might actually just kill Deku right there. But then, Deku's body would start to heal, right then and there. Bakugo, staring at Deku, would mumble under his breath, "So that's how you survived that fall." And Deku, looking down at his body, seeing it regenerate, would be freaking out, and Roru would be telling him, "It's okay. Like I said, I'll keep you alive as long as I'm in control of your body." And remember, Deku never experienced this much. He never regenerated like that before. This is his first time actually using the devil's regeneration powers. All Might spectating this, speechless. But in his mind, he's yelling at himself to go after them right now because Deku might die, but then he's healing by himself. It seems like he has multiple quirks. All Might's eyes will stare up to another monitor, seeing Suro is touching the bomb, announcing that the hero's team has won. So that'll be the end of the first episode. I do have more on the way soon, in a few days maybe. Like and sub if you enjoy this video. If not, then don't. I can't force you to do it, but just do it anyways. If you have any ideas, comment down below, I guess. Alright, anyways, see ya.